I'm Joel.
I'm Andrene.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeremy.
And you're listening to a special edition of Rewind Rewatch, a 90s movie podcast. All right, welcome back, everyone, to, as I said earlier, a special edition of our show where my sister and I watch 90s movies, discuss how well they've aged. In this and every episode, we will talk about what we recognized, saw from the movie, what we liked or didn't like. At the end of the episode, we will try to identify a theme and then give the film a rewind rating from 1 to 5 based on how rewatchable we think the movie is. And for today, we also have special guests, Chris and Jeremy from the Movie Smash podcast. Welcome, folks.
Thanks for having us.
Definitely. Welcome to be back again.
Yes, exactly. So they were previously on the pod when we discussed the movie Airheads. We recently guested on their pod to talk a little Batman, and we are back. And for today's episode, we are going to be covering Demolition Man from 1993.
Yes, this is a rated R film with a 1 hour and 55-minute runtime. And before we let our guests take over and give us their one-sentence summary, I'd like to shout out 3 of our lucky listeners who have requested this film. First up, we have Drew out of Maryland.
Shout out to Drew.
Next up, we have Kristen out of Westchester, PA.
Shout out to Kristen.
And lastly, we have Brandon out of Denver, Colorado. Now, this is a special shout out because Brandon's wife, Ayla, got him listening to the pod.
So I don't know if I want to shout out Brandon or Ayla, but I'm going to shout out them both.
Yeah, for sure.
We love a little arm twisting. That's what spouses are for.
Okay, so as Joel mentioned, we have Chris and Jeremy here from Movie Smash. So if you both can just kind of introduce yourself and share your history with this film.
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm one of the co-hosts for Movie Smash. I'm also the founder of All Panel Creations. It's a furniture company. We build nerdy furniture. But mainly what I do is I'm on Movie Smash every other week. We're talking about movies that are based on comic books. And we really sort of stick those not in Marvel because everyone talks about those things. We find some winners and some losers and we have a lot of fun. But for this movie, though, this came out, in early 90s?
93.
And as we will learn later, there is a Taco Bell sponsorship deep within its core. I was working at Taco Bell at that time.
Oh, wow.
So, we will probably get more into it later, but I've got stories involving giant cardboard cutouts of Sylvester Stallone in the Taco Bell lobby.
Love that.
I'm the other host of Movie Smash. I'm Jeremy. I'm also the host of the Retrovaniacs podcast, which talks about old video games. And I saw this movie, kind of when it was new. I saw it in the theater, 1993. That's prime time for me and my friends being old enough to be able to drive to the movie theater or get a friend to drive us to the movie theater, but not old enough to drink ahead of time to forget the movie. So I do remember seeing this in the theater, unlike many other movies we could talk about.
And I probably saw it with you, Jeremy.
It's very possible.
Oh, I love that. Joel, have you seen this film before?
I have not, except for I saw a part of it once. Like, it was like playing on TV while I was channel surfing. And it was the scene where Wesley Snipes is at the CompuServe kiosk and he beats up all of the cops. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then I changed the channel. So other than that, I had not ever seen this movie before.
That's pretty valid. For me, this is my first watch, and I was talking to Jeremy off mic earlier, and I shared with him that this is actually my very first Sylvester Stallone film.
What?
Wait a second.
I know.
No.
You never seen any of the Rockies?
No.
That's more shocking than anything else in his filmography, honestly.
I've never seen the whole thing through, so.
I mean, you had to try to do that. The man is prolific. He's everywhere.
I mean, after this, I think I gotta just go full on.
Wait, but that means you also never saw any of the Creed films. Because he's at least in the first one.
Not all the way through, I don't think.
Wow. Creed's
Skip
excellent.
those parts.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, there you go. Well, now you're fully on board in the Sly Stone experience.
I was going to say, this is quite the introduction. If this is the one you're going to use as an introduction to Sylvester Stallone, you picked quite the movie.
Yeah, but it kind of like embodies everything he was about in the late 80s.
Yeah, I was going to say early 90s, he was doing these kind of action comedy sort of things. So this is appropriate for the time frame. But if you were going to tell somebody, pick one Sylvester Stallone movie, and that's what I want to watch and know him by, you would never, well, I wouldn't have picked this movie. I like this
No.
movie, but it's not what I would have picked.
Fair enough.
So as we do on each episode, we usually threaten each. Not threaten is probably not the right word, but we do a 1-sentence summary. And basically, if you were to tell somebody what this movie is about, and you could only do it in 1 sentence, what would you say? So instead of us trying to figure it out this episode, we're gonna put the responsibility on you guys, and I'll let one of you pick to say, what is Demolition Man in 1 sentence?
Sure, I drew the shortest straw, so I've got to do it. It is cops and villains from 1996 are cryogenically frozen and wake up in 2032 to a much nicer world to tear it apart.
Oh, I like that.
So we've got 2 main characters. Our friend John, what's his last name?
Spartan?
John Spartan.
John
Of course,
Spartan.
John Spartan. What's his last name? John Spartan, played by Sylvester Stallone, and then we have Wesley Snipes, who plays the super villain, a very, very bad guy named Simon Phoenix. So maybe we should start there. Who is this Simon Phoenix character? Because when we are introduced to him at the beginning of the film, it's 1996, but it looks like a wasteland. And Los Angeles has been completely torn apart. And it looks like this guy is Simon Phoenix is kind of at the center of all of the havoc and mayhem. Almost, it's funny because the last movie that we discussed together was Batman Forever, which was like a campy comic book film. And this character to me also seemed like a comic book villain. So how would you describe Simon Phoenix?
Well, first off, I'd say just to give your listeners a little better sort of a view of it. The movie was released in 1993, was filmed in 1992. So this scene we see initially is from 1996, so it's like the near future. But we also had the LA riots before this. So in their mind, people making this was like, yeah, it's possible LA could be, hellhole in 3 years. I could see that happening. But Phoenix, he is a comic book character. He's over the top. He's ridiculous. He's almost like an urban Joker, I guess.
Yes.
He's he's just so over that, but he just wants chaos for the sake of chaos. He's not looking for money, and he stores barrels of C4 around his hideout for some reason. But which it's not how
just
you
in
store
case
C4.
he needs to blow it all up, of course.
Yeah, you don't really store C4 as barrels, but sure, go with that. I don't know. He's a maniac. He's a Joker character.
And then,
Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, no, you got it.
I was going to say just his original plot in 1996 or whatever is he's got like a busload of people that he has taken captive. And so John Spartan's there to try to like free them. Like that's his whole thing is just like he doesn't want anything. He's not asking for ransom. He's taking him captive and come get me. But, see what I'm going to do. Like there's no it is very much like the Joker where he's like I'm just doing this cuz I can. I don't want anything.
Yeah, he just drove onto his property. That's all it was.
Yeah,
he
that's
said
enough for me
something
as
along the
well.
lines of like, "Oh, I told them to like leave me alone. Like the cops can't come here and the citizens can't come here." But then a bus drove past, and so I had to kidnap them. Like this was his solution. It's like you trespass, everybody has to die. Like this is the way it goes.
Well, if you give an inch, they're going to take a mile. So you got to just stress it to anybody who comes on your property.
Also, kind of surprised that bus service is still operating in LA because what we see at the beginning of the film looks like some post-apocalyptic like an anarchy type of, very far in the future. Like for this to only be 3 years out from the time the movie's released, it looks like LA has been burned to the ground. But like the buses are still running every 15 minutes apparently, so that's nice. At least they still have public transportation.
Well, I think that dystopian view we get is really to highlight how utopian the other future is, how clean it is versus how destructive this one is. Because normally we get these movies where you go far in the future, it's just like, what is it like? What's that series called? The Hunger Games, that kind of stuff, where
Right.
it's so destroyed. So we rarely ever get the utopia side of things, where it's so good and so PC that is terrible the other direction.
That's a good point. Going back to Phoenix and just how cartoonish his character is, the two different colored eyes, like the hazel eye and then also like the deep blue eye.
Love
As
that.
I'm watching the film, I realized that the eye colors keep changing. Did you guys catch this?
Like they're
Like-
No, I
swapping?
Yeah, like
That's awesome.
earlier on in the film, the hazel eye was the left one. And then later on in the film, I see like it's the right one. And I'm like, am I crazy? And I started rewinding it. And I'm like, no, they must have goofed up because the eye colors keep changing. So that was fun.
If
I
that
didn't
was a
even catch
goof up,
that.
that's great.
I wonder if it was that they just kept changing, like he would put in the contacts every day and he put them in the wrong side, or if it's, a lot of time they'll reverse the image because it makes more sense for whatever's going on. So I wonder if it was that as well. But either way, if you're going to have different colored eyes, it's something to pay attention to one way or the other in editing.
So
But also his haircut. He has like a crazy haircut. The whole
not just
time.
him.
No, yeah.
He's not the only one.
Okay. But about his haircut, was it Dennis Rodman saw this movie and that he adopted that haircut?
Is that really what happened?
That's true. That's true. That's not like me making it up, making a joke.
Oh,
It is kind of a
wow.
joke. But that's actually where he got his own style from.
The timeline adds up because he wasn't coloring his hair before around this time when he was playing in San Antonio and in Detroit. He was just regular.
Yep.
So
he thought Phoenix was so cool. I needed this haircut.
I mean,
I guess it's better than deciding Phoenix is so cool he was going to kidnap busfuls of people. So that's fine. I'll take it.
there
Haircut's
are
way
worse
to go.
things he could have
One
done.
or two ways.
I mean, honestly, I found Wesley Snipes to be absolutely delightful in this movie, man. Like he was so much fun. Every time he was on camera, he was just, you could tell that he was having fun with the character. And you often hear actors talk about how like it's more fun. You can do more things playing the bad guy versus playing the good guy. And I feel like he is like living his best life in this role. The jokes that he's making, the huge smile on his face, number one. But just like he is such a evil just for evil's sake guy. And his motivation is just to like ruin. Like that's basically it. So he's just having fun with it. In the same way where, you talk about the Joker, like when you watch The Dark Knight, every Heath Ledger scene is like your eyes are glued to the screen. And I feel like every time he was in this film, it was just so entertaining. And he just brought all of the Wesley Snipes energy to this bad villain character that I just loved it.
Yeah, I really do like the scene where he goes into the Hall of Violence.
Yeah.
Go find himself a weapon. And he's trying to break the glass and can't do it. He's like kicking it. He's doing like these kung fu moves. They look fantastic. And he literally asks the guy how heavy he is and just throws him against the glass.
Mellow greetings. What seems to be your boggle?
My boggle? How much do you weigh?
Well, I happen to weigh...
I mean, to be fair, he was able to kick his way through a lot of glass in this film. He was kicking through dashboards in
His
cars.
kicking skills are top notch.
I mean, it was ridiculous the amount of times he was punching and kicking his way through these hard objects.
But he had been hardwired while he was frozen. He'd been hardwired with martial arts skills. So
Yes.
what else is he gonna do? He has to kick.
He has to kick.
The man's been trained to kick. It's
Impulsion
funny
to kick
because
things.
when he comes out of the prison, he has these like overall suspenders.
You like those?
It was cracking me up because I'm watching him do this and I'm like, this is Wesley Snipes. And he's fighting like he's Blade, but he's dressed like he's Chucky.
Yeah.
And he even had the red hair. So it was a sight to behold, man. It's great.
I do like his outfits throughout the movie. I like at the end where he's got like that dystopian looking armor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, opposite of him is not John Rambo, but
Spartan.
John Spartan. It could be John
Spartan.
Rambo.
John
It is
Spartan.
interchangeable.
He might as well be John Rambo. And we meet this guy, and he shows up, and it's like, hey, the cop said not to come here. Well, I got to do what I got to do. And he's like coming in on a helicopter. He has on his beret and his army uniform for whatever reason.
That's how you know he's tough. Beret.
And I'm like, all right, you can already tell that this guy takes himself way too seriously because he is not there on behalf of the army. He is supposed to be part of the police force, but he's just wearing his old army uniform for whatever reason. And he like rappels down on a rope. And his nickname is the Demolition Man because whenever he goes to solve a problem, he ends up causing millions of dollars of damage. They have a news clip later in the film where they show that he's like saving some girl who got kidnapped, and he ends up like blowing up a mini mall or something ridiculous. So I guess the real question is, who do you like more? Do you like John more or do you like Simon more?
See, I like them both for different reasons.
Okay, say more.
We mentioned the chaos of Phoenix, but Stallone, I like him because I think he's like a sort of satire on the 80s action star. He's super tough, super muscular. He does a thing where he jumps the gun, like punches the bullet forward at one point. And he also, by the way, that rappel scene looked really cool. Like, I mean, jumping out of a helicopter with no parachute, just doing rappelling down, that actually looks pretty dangerous. But he also has later scenes where he's like, it's not all cowboys, right? Like he's trying to like, deconstruct a little bit about what it means to be an action star. But he, I don't know. I enjoyed he wasn't a completely over the top action star. And in fact, he knows how to knit. I don't know many action stars that know how to knit.
That is very true.
It's not something he worked on himself. It was programmed. You kind of hinted at before, but when they're in this cryogenic sleep, whoever it is gets some sort of rehabilitation plan to do whatever it is. And in his case, it was knit. So he was going to be like a seamstress whenever he came out of cryogenic freezing instead of a police officer. But I mean, John Spartan, if it was just 1996 John Spartan, I think you wouldn't like him because he was just like, okay, he's just like this action guy and it's fine, I guess. But when he goes to the future, you have him constantly as like the foil to everyone in the future is like squeaky clean, and they're singing TV show theme songs in a car, and you get his reaction to everything, which is also your reaction where you're like, this is crazy. Why would it? And so you have him there for that purpose. That's when I really like him, when he's in the future, like responding to how the future is, where he's like, I can't believe this is what's happened to Los Angeles, which is now San Angeles. But yeah, you like him more in the future. But if the whole movie was just the original, like if the whole movie was just the original bus thing, you'd probably just be like, yeah, it was fine, I guess. I like the enemies more. But you like him more in the future.
It's a fish out of water thing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I think when I think about him in back in the whole 1996 LA, it kind of reminds me. I know you guys don't cover the Marvel movies, but I have seen a few of those films. And when you think about the damage that they do when they're going around trying to save people, that's like one of the big factors they talk about in these films is how like, are superheroes actually good for the world? Because while you're saving people, the damage that you're doing to everyone else, it kind of sometimes doesn't outweigh the good that they're doing. And so that's kind of what I thought about him. Like, if you're being called Demolition Man, like clearly you're doing something wrong as a police officer, if that's your nickname.
Yeah, there was that news clip that said he saved some girl from a kidnapping, and the news reporter's like, how do you feel the fact that you did $3 million in damages, but the ransom was only $25,000?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And what's a little girl say to her? Like, no, fuck you or something like that?
Yeah.
I forgot what it was.
She does.
It's rated R. You got to use those Fs. Got to have them.
Got to have the Fs.
Well, there's a few action movie, what's the word I'm looking for?
Tropes?
Yes, tropes. For right off the bat, we get the gas leak, which whenever there's a gas leak in an action movie, it can only be lit by flicking a cigarette onto it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Never like a torch or a lighter or a match. Sometimes it's a match, but it's usually the cigarette flick. But also we get this John character who is, of course, the rogue cop. Right? There's always got to be the cop that knows better than the whole police department, that's doing the thing that his boss has explicitly told him not to do. And what the hell? I told you, enough's enough, man. I'm kicking you off the force. Right? And so this is kind of what he's done. What I didn't really understand, though, is, of course, Demolition Man goes and causes demolition. He goes to try to fight Phoenix. The whole lair gets blown up. And oh my God, would you believe that the kidnapped bus attendants are now all dead?
Right.
And somehow he gets a 70-year sentence, which seems a
They
bit
blame
harsh.
him for their deaths.
Yeah.
Like if he would have not gone there, then that bus full of people would not have died, right? So they're not blaming. I'm going to forget character names. Wesley Snipes for this at all. They're blaming John Spartan. So because he's already done other damaging things, they already know he's like a loose cannon. So now it's like, hey, if you went in there, we told you not to go in there. All 30 of these people are now dead. And you can assume, since it was by an explosion, that there wasn't an easy way to like look at their bodies and determine what happened. They're burned up bodies in a bus that was, as far as they knew, he killed them all by his actions. So, I mean, it's a little loose. I don't know if that would happen in real life to this extent. Obviously, they don't
Especially not to a
freeze
cop.
villains.
It definitely wouldn't have happened.
But true. But in this case, that's why he's frozen. So that's how you get the connection to get him to the future, right? They clearly get the Wesley Snipes, because he does get captured. So you're like, okay, we are obviously a criminal. You're doing all these other things from before. You already have a rap sheet. We can put you away in this cryogenic freeze rehabilitation program. And also, John Spartan, you just killed 30 people. You're going to get 70 years in this cryogenic program. So in the future, Wesley Snipes gets out, and then they decide to unfreeze the only cop that'll know how to deal with him, because somehow in 26 years, all the other police officers. Yeah, so it's 26 years after this, and all the other cops have forgotten how to deal with a criminal because it's so good in the future. It was 26 years that wiped it all away. And so now no one knows how to deal with a real criminal. So they unfreeze John Spartan. And that's how he
Except for that one cop. That one cop does still remember.
Yeah, but he's old now.
He's
That's the other
old.
thing is he must have been a little old then, but he was definitely old enough now where he's like, well, I'm too old to go out and do any of that myself. So, John, you can do it.
Wasn't he like the helicopter pilot or something?
He at least, I don't know if he was maybe he was. I missed if it was here at the beginning, but they definitely knew each other because he's like, I know that guy. But
So now that we're in the future, 2032, so I guess that's actually 36 years. And it is so far in the future that
math is not good.
American language has changed. They have new ways of communicating. They have new ways of greeting one another. They no longer have any physical touch.
Yes.
So all the high fives and greetings are kind of distanced. They have some virtual way to make love so that they don't have to exchange any bodily fluids. And they have this be well saying that is happening throughout the film.
I have 3 teenagers, and I can tell you on the language side, it changes very fast, and it's ridiculous and it's stupid. If you fast forward 30 plus years, it's going to be even dumber. I can fully see it.
But it's super clean and dumb, right? It's not slang. Like I have 2 kids too. They're not quite as old as Chris's, but they will say things. All of them are bad. Everything they say is terrible. But like this is like super clean. It's almost like going back to the 60s to find slang to pull back to 2032 or whatever. So it's like jeepers, basically the whole time. Like,
it's funny. So my son and I watched this movie together just right before coming on here today to sort of refresh myself. And I was explaining to him that this movie, and you take this movie and Idiocracy, those 2 different movies, and they're very similar in one key way. Like Idiocracy is what people on the left wing of politics thinks that what the the right wing will turn the world into. Demolition Man is sort of like what people on the right wing think the left wing will turn the world into.
That is interesting. That's a really good take.
Thanks, I try.
That's good. That's good.
Idiocracy has come up a lot in the past couple of years, but I've not heard this. I've not heard this movie come up as like this could happen if you don't. But that makes sense. I could see.
But remember, this also came out when the movie like PCU came out. If you're not familiar with that or not,
I haven't seen that one. No.
Politically Correct University. It's about a university who has taken this control of language so far that the frat house has got to rebel against it. So it's a comedy.
God. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's not quite this movie or Idiocracy, but I get what you're saying. It's a stretch, but I get it.
It's a stretch. It's not. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, but it came out around the same time.
Wow.
It sounds like old school with like politics.
Yeah, it's old school.
Similar. It's similar to old school.
Yeah.
So now
I haven't seen it in over 20 years, so it could be even far worse than I remember.
I don't know if that's possible, but I guess it depends on how bad you remember it. Now they're calling anyone who is a murder is now called a murder death kill. I don't know why they have to say
I
all
hate
3.
it so much.
Well, it's because you've had so few of it. Might as well lump it all into one category.
And they say that as soon as Simon Phoenix gets out of prison, he's already he commits 3 murder death kills off the bat. and they say that it's the first recorded murder since 2010. So there has not been any killings in 22 years. And we find out later that this entire universe has been concocted and created by this guy named Dr. Cocteau, who is, I guess, like the mayor of this town, but kind of like a cult leader, and also kind of like some sort of technical genius. Like there's like
Yeah.
some co-op there's a bunch of things that he's created, and as a result of that, he's been put in a position of power politically. What is his motivation in all of this?
So I think now, first of all, I don't think this world we're seeing has spread to the rest of the world itself. It's kind of isolated here in California.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really because they talk about the big one, the big quake that occurs, it destroys everything, and I think he swoops in as sort of being this rich guy who helps rebuild the whole thing. And he's had this whole concept of what so like rehabilitation is for the prison systems. They give him a lot of leadway, and then that's why he's kind of the savior of the region, which is why they keep reelecting him into positions of power.
Yeah, I'd say it's about, even if it started out as a good idea, you get a little taste of power, you get a little taste of being that well, everyone just defers to me, and ultimately power corrupts is a theme in a lot of things, and I think that's what happened here as well. I think he probably had good intentions, and then it's like, well, I've got everyone locked down now, doing their own thing. I'm kind of doing whatever I want. I have this giant, I live in this giant building, and I can, everyone here, you get fined if you swear in the future now. Like there's these printers everywhere, which is funny, but it happens over and over again. Every time anyone swears, there's little printers nearby that give you demerit tickets. I think it's the idea that once he starts getting control, it's like, well, I'm never going to get rid of it. What else can I do to like really button down my control?
And speaking about him, like he has this idea that the people who don't want to subscribe to his new way of life and live in this society, they are called the scraps. And this is a group who has basically left society to live in the sewers. And they're literally having to steal and use weapons to just get food, because the only way you can get food now, money no longer exists. Everything is done by like computer transactions. I guess you like scan your eyeballs or
They have chips
or use your
implanted
chips
into their hand.
Yes.
Very, very freaky stuff. And so I think it's Friendly is the name of the guy who is a leader of the scraps. And
Dennis Leary, yeah.
Edgar Friendly.
Edgar Friendly. And we learn, like, first off, you're thinking Friendly is like this. I almost was thinking about, what is those movies where it's like way further into the future, it's like a wasteland, everyone's riding on like these big...
But Mad Max? Or
Yes. I'm thinking about Mad Max. It kind of like the way that Friendly and his people are dressed is very much like that Mad Max type of world. And you're thinking they're very dangerous. Who are these people? But then we get to realize what he's thinking of. And he's like, I want to be able to think on my own and read and have freedom of speech. And it's like, oh, this actually is not a bad guy at all. He's just painted in that light. And Cocteau hates that he can't control Friendly and his followers. And that's kind of where this whole fight starts out.
Yeah, he'd rather have his freedom than the comfort of the society.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this whole scraps narrative is obviously, to me, like them playing on the fact of, all right, what do we really know about the people that the bigwigs of the government try to tell us are not looking out for us or not in our best interest? The people that we need to be scared of, are they actually people that we need to be scared of, or should we not maybe be so trusting of the narratives that people tell us? Because when Spartan is first reintroduced to society, he's basically told that these people are ne'er-do-wells who are hiding in the sewers and they're trying to wreak havoc, but we have them under control. And Dr. Cocteau's whole plan is to basically eliminate them, which is why Simon Phoenix comes back out. He's programmed him with all of this to enhance his evil even further, to get him to basically kill Edgar Friendly and eliminate this entire group of people who aren't doing what he wants. But really, the whole idea is that they're nonconformists because they don't want to basically sterilize their entire lives. And I think that the movie's also kind of asking the question, like, at what cost is it worth it to not have, like, you know, people committing crimes and, like, the streets are completely clean and everybody's eating clean and nobody's smoking or cursing or doing all these quote unquote bad things. But, like, is it actually worth it when people don't really have the option of doing anything else? And so I feel like that's kind of the big question in the background of this entire film.
I agree. It's nice because in most, like I was saying earlier, in most of these sort of far future dystopian worlds, we get an authoritarian government, but it's dirty, nasty, or whatever. And there's rebellion.
And the people are starving.
People are starving. And now we get this other side of one where it's an authoritarian government, but people aren't starving, but they also can't speak their mind. They get fined every time they say the wrong word. And there's only one restaurant you can go to called Taco Bell.
What's with this cocktail guy anyway? He says I saved his life, which I'm not even sure I did, and my reward is dinner and dancing at Taco Bell. I mean, hey, I like Mexican food, but come on.
Your tone is quasi-facetious, but you do not realize that Taco Bell was the only restaurant to survive the franchise wars.
So?
So? Now all restaurants are Taco Bell.
But you also can't. You also have to eat rat burgers. You don't like that.
Well, I was going to say, it's not that you can't even eat meat. You don't eat meat anymore. Mm-hmm. You don't, as we mentioned, there's no physical touch at all. Like there's, aside from just like the funny, like, oh, you can't do high fives and people don't have physical violence, but like they have a whole scene where like, oh, we're going to have like a love scene, but it's not. They put on these headsets and it's, goofy on purpose because it's funny. But the idea is then like, yeah, they also got rid of any kind of, anything that you would have enjoyed in 1996 is also gone for the most part for the sake of safety, right? So is that worth it? I also think this, and maybe this is a stretch, but I think it's also, the idea of having the people on the surface that seem to have this perfect life, and then there's people underneath the world that they're afraid of, but ultimately maybe they're not the ones you should be afraid of. Is very much like, even go back to like the Time Machine, where you have the Eloi that are on the surface that are like these, peaceful people. Then there's these animals underneath that eat them. But are they? The Morlocks may or may not be this bad thing that now you should be afraid of. Maybe they're not the problem. And it's similar, except in this case, they really aren't the problem, where the Morlocks and Eloys are a little more murky than that. But
yeah, going back to all the rules that they have in this new society, I mean, you can't even procreate without the government signing off on it.
In a lab.
You have to have a license. Yeah. You have to have a license to have kids.
I don't think that's a terrible plan, to be honest. I have kids. I think we should need a license. That part I get. The license part.
Yeah, my license was revoked 3 years ago. So.
Well, the other big character that we have not mentioned at all yet is Lieutenant Huxley, played by Sandra Bullock. And she is in 2032, but she has like this retro obsession with the 90s. And so she's got the Lethal Weapon poster on her wall, and she's like outfitted her entire apartment with all of this, like, it basically looks like a museum dedicated to the 90s. So she's fascinated by this time before everything was cleaned up. And when we're introduced to her early in the film, she's a police officer, but she's a bit bored because there's actually nothing for her to do because there's no crimes. When the quote-unquote scraps commit, they deface like a public building, it's immediately wiped clean. So there really isn't anything for the cops to do. They basically just stay at the police department, surveil things on a camera, and then say like, oh, something happened here. And then they report it. And then that's like their whole job.
Yep. Yeah, I do like the line where they say like, oh, we're police officers. We're not trained for this.
Yeah.
By the classically trained actor, Rob Schneider.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. Rob Schneider is in this movie.
That was great to see.
There's a lot
Well,
of
glad
like
it's a
random
small
people
role.
that pop up in this film.
Yeah, I'm glad it was a small role. Later on, he has a much bigger role in another Sylvester Stallone movie, the 1995 Judge Dredd film. He's got a much bigger role, unfortunately. But another futuristic dystopian movie, so very
Maybe
similar.
this is a prequel.
Every time I see Rob Schneider, the first thing I think about is Home Alone 2. So,
Oh, wow.
no tip? Okay.
Okay. Well, I think we're talking about Huxley, and also Joel, going back to your idea of action films in the 90s and the tropes. We know that the police like you said, have no training. They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to discipline people. All they can do is basically talk in a stern voice when criminals, for whatever reason, disobey their orders.
And following a manual, like,
yeah.
So it's like,
They're, like,
what is
reading
actually
it.
the training for this job? Because anybody can just read a manual.
Yeah.
Well, it's an easy job.
Yeah,
You know,
if he doesn't do it, say, or
you just
else.
sit back. Right. With a stern voice. But later on, she ends up doing some fighting alongside Spartan. And I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, but she has no training. How is she able to do all of these kicks and flips and all of this?
She watches 90s films.
And she said she watches Jackie Chan.
Yeah, Jackie Chan movies, yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. So by that way of thinking, as long as you watch something, your body can then just do it. So I should be able now to do all these types of kicks like Phoenix, right?
Well, if you watch enough Jackie Chan movies, a few of the Rush Hours, a little Rumble in the Bronx, then you're ready to go.
But you gotta remember too, like what's the year, like 2060 or something like that?
2032.
2032. So her being obsessed with 90s culture is what, a 50-year difference, I guess? 50-60-year difference. So that'd be like someone in the 90s being obsessed with the 40s, 30s. So
Well,
like
it's
The 50s, so it's like
40-year
the
difference.
50s.
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah,
like,
it'd be like somebody who was like super into greasers in the 90s, which is a thing. Like,
Yeah,
that was a thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's very believable.
yeah, so someone in the 90s got put the pack of cigarettes in their sleeve, rolls it up, snapping as they're walking.
That was there. You were there. It
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
That was a thing.
That was definitely a
Yeah,
thing.
Jeremy, we did do that together. Yeah, we did.
But that was just a private thing you and I did alone. Wasn't it public?
And then there was like a little 60s revival in the 90s where like the bell bottoms came back and the platform shoes.
Oh, yeah. I wore all of that.
And now I feel like a lot of the baggy jeans from the 90s are starting to come back around now, where kids are wearing like baggy clothes again. So these things are a little cyclical, but I think
Yeah,
because
that and the tramp stamp I just got.
Perfect. Yeah, like I think she stands out because of the way that society has been so sanitized. Like nobody else cares about any of this stuff. So they're like, like your entire office is in violation. You have all this stuff here. Like, well, this is crazy. And she's like, don't you think it's so cool? Like, I still watch these movies. And they're like, why? Like, these people were savages. Like, they don't even understand.
I think the better question is, how is she watching those movies? I mean,
That's true. Wouldn't they
Like,
be
we want-
banned?
like if we had a bunch of like a VHS collection, like what are you going to watch that on? I mean, it's so hard to get a player now, let alone 20
Yeah,
years
I
from
don't
now.
know. I don't know.
Yeah, but you say now. Now's 2026. Only 6 more years in the future. We can
But she
still
also
find.
says she watched things on Laserdisc.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you can find one.
do you
Did
have a
Laserdiscs
Laserdisc?
even exist in 1993?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they
I mean,
did.
Laserdiscs were out in the 80s. Now, I think they had already kind of fallen down because people were starting with DVDs by then. But Laserdiscs were still a thing, just not a super popular thing.
Well, that police officer's salary is obviously doing something for her because she's spent a lot of money on these retro things that I don't know how she would have even found in this place that she lives. The other thing we talk about Sylvester Stallone in the early 90s and kind of who he was and what he represented in the movie industry at the time. And there's this nice rib that they have, this joke where they bring up Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it reminded me of when we watched Twins and there was that scene where Arnold's walking around in LA and he like sees a Rambo poster and he's like, who is this guy? Like this little joke that they're making, this little feud that they had going on at the time. And so he finds out that Schwarzenegger had become president and there's a presidential library named after him. And he's like, what? That's ridiculous. How could they have done that? And so, yeah, that was also funny just to kind of be taken back to that time where they kind of had this like, who's the bigger action star thing going on. But it seemed like it was in good fun. That it wasn't like actual real beef, not to my knowledge anyway.
It wasn't real beef, but it was definitely professional beef. Like, Sylvester Stallone was in a fairly not good movie called Throw Mama from the Train. It's not a good movie. It was
Oh,
in
my.
it. He took it. He only took it because the rumor was Arnold was going to take it. And Arnold sent that rumor out because like, this movie is trash. Let's see if we can get Sylvester Stallone to do it. Like, that's the kind of relationship they had. It was definitely like, who's going to one up the other one? They weren't super close friends, but it was professional. Like, yeah, okay, let's see. But they definitely had movies where they went for the same role. They definitely, it's not a surprise that they had this rivalry. So I like that they have these jokes in these movies where they reference it.
Yeah.
Well, not only that. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
There's another joke in there too, by the way. There is an extended version of that scene where first it says he became governor of California during the Great Quake, and then becomes president. And they made, what was it, the 51st Amendment? I think it's what the amendment number was, right? To make it so he's allowed to do it.
I don't remember. It was
I don't remember
some
that.
high number, yeah.
Yeah, which there are 27 amendments currently, so which means that 24 more had to come out.
Good Lord.
What other changes did they make to the Constitution in that 20 years?
That's the no swearing rule. It's got to be right in there.
Right.
Well, we don't know what the rest of California or even the rest of the U.S. looks like. We only
Right.
know what San Angeles looks like. So presumably, if you left and went to Vegas, it might still look like the rest of the U.S. But what we do know is that Dr. Cocteau has San Angeles completely in its own little bubble. At what point do you start to figure that this guy, Dr. Cocteau, is bad news? Straight away or later on in the film?
I don't think they really hide it that much. I mean,
Yeah, it's a pretty thinly veiled evil guy. When you meet him for the first time in person at the meal at the Taco Bell event, when the scraps show up the first time, you can they make sure it's very clear. You see his response, and it's not just like, this is horrifying or whatever. He's just like, these damn people.
Right.
Very much, he's not a good guy.
before that, we had the scene where he meets up obviously with Phoenix, so he's already been revealed to the audience by that point.
Right.
But I think you're right, Jeremy. Of a personality type, he's the only one that doesn't seem superly nice.
Yeah. Everyone else is like, again, it's almost like comically nice, where it's like these can't, like the Jeepers thing, like oh my stars, like it's all very much that level of niceness, and he doesn't have that at all. He
also
seems like he's like, yeah.
And he's also shocked that they got Demolition Man out. He's like, why would you do that?
Well, you didn't know at the time that he's behind why. Wesley Snipes' character, who I'll never remember the name of the entire podcast.
Phoenix.
Phoenix, thank you. And that makes more sense. I should just use Phoenix. They even make a comment about Phoenix rising in the movie. That's how I should remember this. But yeah, he's behind Phoenix getting brought out so that he can send him against the scraps, because they figure the police aren't going to do anything about this. We need something extreme to get rid of the scraps. I think, to go back to your comment about you're not sure what the rest of California or anything looks like, I don't know if they talk more about it in the movie where it's more explained, but if it wasn't just San Andreas, which is it's not just Los Angeles renamed, it's like the entire Western Seaboard basically is one big super city. But it couldn't have been easy to get out.
Or mega city?
Yeah, like a mega city. Thank you. But it couldn't have been too easy for people to get out, or why wouldn't the scraps just all leave? They have cars. They have ways to build buses.
Right.
They could do something. So I imagine there has to be like large Mad Max style waste of wasteland in between this and other cities, or maybe all the other cities had some sort of they talk about the big one, which is an earthquake, but how big was it? Like, was it so big that it was more than just California? Was it like a countrywide earthquake? I don't know. But it makes sense that the scraps are stuck there if there's nowhere else to go. So it can't be that it's like, oh yeah, it's just outside of San Andreas. It's wonderful. Like it has to be something bad going on out there.
Absolutely. And I think it's funny that Spartan is really the only cop, who's doing any kind of work whatsoever, because he goes back and finds that footage that shows that Cocteau was talking to Phoenix, because everyone else just blindly trusts this man. He's the savior of our city. He's created all this peace. And he sees this footage and he's like, well, why would he be talking to Phoenix? And Phoenix is the kind of person, like he said, if you have 10 seconds, in the first second, he's going to shoot you. And the fact that he's pointing a gun at him, and Phoenix actually tries to shoot him, but because Cocteau is controlling him and he's been programmed, he cannot actually physically press the button to shoot him. And so Cocteau, of course, is now safe. Now, what I think, going back to Cocteau and this guy's supposed to be this really smart person, I couldn't for the life of me understand why he thought it was a good idea to allow Phoenix to handpick the men that he was going to release from the prison to assist him.
Really stupid.
I mean,
with the explanation too, he's like, I want to make sure you don't pick the really bad guy.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'll buy that. That's the only time he seems like an idiot in the whole movie.
Fine, as long as you promise me you will kill Edgar Friendly.
Well,
all right, man.
We do know there are worse prisoners. We did find that out. Was it Jeffrey Dahmer's in there?
Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yes.
I love that guy.
But not just that. If you're going to pull out people to do these kind of crimes, Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't he's a bad guy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Jeffrey Dahmer fan, but he's not like this kind of I took a bus full of people hostage and blew up a city block. That wasn't what he did.
Mm-mm. He's not a gun-wielding maniac. That wasn't his
No.
style.
Different kind of maniac. Still terrifying, but it wouldn't be the same movie at all. Different plot.
Well, you talk about them having access to cars, and I thought it was pretty incredible that somehow they had this car that they got in the sewer.
The Oldsmobile.
But then we see that they were able to get it out of the sewer by some elevator that leads directly into the Oldsmobile show floor. So presumably that's how they got it down. So I was like, all right, well, I guess that answers my question. And despite it having been in the sewers for the past 30 years, still ran
gas
pretty
is still good.
Yeah, the gas was still good. It ran pretty effectively. So that still worked out for them.
Well, it wasn't an Oldsmobile; it was an old mobile.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. Rim shot.
Being a Sandra Bullock's character, in a way she got everything wrong all the time.
You're right.
Yeah.
I love those phrases that she kept saying incorrectly.
Oh, she's fantastic.
They made me laugh quite a few times.
You can take this job and you can shovel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's like, close enough.
We've got a new shepherd in town.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Or was it kiss him in the butt or something?
What did she say? Let's blow this guy.
That's what it was.
That's right. That was
Blow this guy away.
blow this guy away. I know Jeremy's been having some trouble remembering Simon Phoenix's name, but one way to easily remember that his first name is Simon is that he continuously says,
Oh, dear God.
Simon says before he does something. Simon says die, and then he shoots someone. Simon says bleed, which it's so ridiculous that it just made me laugh because it was very Joker, Riddler, Two-Face, like Simon says bleed. It was not something I was expecting to come out of this film.
Well, speaking of silly stuff too, like what's the nightstick thing they have? What's it called?
It's like a probe something, right? Like, isn't it like a shock stick or something named terribly, but it's basically just like a prod, like a cattle prod.
But I love that they give Stallone one of those, and he's walking into the museum asking how it works. Just randomly knocks some guy out. Keeps going. So I think they're all some level of chaos.
Between these two, they have a number of fight scenes, things getting blown up, people getting shot. Is there anyone that stands out for you that you either particularly enjoyed or particularly did not enjoy?
I mean, the very first scene they had together stood out for me because, like as you mentioned before, the whole cigarette flick onto the gasoline to enlight everything. But then it's like in that moment, Spartan was standing pretty much in the gasoline, but he just like makes this huge jump and he leaps over the fire somehow. And
not only that, the fire goes up and burns his hand to drop his gun. And
that's right.
He is still perfectly fine.
That's right.
Well, that's the thing. There's gas all over the floor, but when they're fighting, it's like they're in the center of a ring of fire. But I'm like, but he never circled the gas. He just poured it everywhere. So why aren't they burning up? But all right, whatever.
And also, how was he able to throw him over his shoulder and walk out of that building after the whole thing just completely blew up?
Demolition Man.
And I do like the fact that they put the C4 in barrels. I'll keep calling that back. It's done in bricks, and it's ignited by electricity, not by fire.
It could have been like nitro, not like nitrogen barrels or something. It could have been anything, but they're like C4. This is what you put in an action movie.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It's like, there are always like phases in movies where like the answer is one thing, like it used to be nukes, then it was like EMP blasts, and then it was like nanotechnology. I think that was around the time where like everyone had to use C4. You had to use C4 in everything, no matter what.
That's facts.
But there's also a scene where Spartan is standing on top of the car as Huxley is speeding on a highway.
Yeah, that's great.
And he tells her like basically like use this because in that world the cars essentially drive themselves. And now they have an old car and she's not really sure how to drive it. And he's trying to teach her. And he says, okay, you see that pedal, just jam it down as hard as you can. So I'm like, how fast are they going? And he's just standing on the hood of the vehicle. He doesn't fly off. He doesn't lose his balance. I'm like, oh, okay, this is action film world where you can just do whatever you want and be fine.
Well, this is like Speed. It's just like Speed. It's the power of Sandra Bullock.
I do remember the first time I saw that, I thought that the joke was going to be she was going to slam on the brakes. He was going to go flying.
Yeah.
Did not happen. And she also said she learned how to drive from movies. Remember, she said like, oh, I know how to do this. I've seen it.
Right. just like just like fighting. She saw it in action movies. So there's an action movie chase scene, which has to be in every action movie. But that's also where Phoenix tells Spartan, he's like, "Oh yeah, all those people on that bus you got killed for, I killed them before you were in the building." Like he had to let him know. He couldn't just let that slide. He knew it would get him. So as he's fighting him in the car, which also there's it has the future car like comedy scenes where once he gets control of the police car again, he doesn't know how to drive it. It won't let him take it back for manual control or not. So then he drives over into that fountain where it fills with foam or whatever. Like it's all great to watch. Like that whole scene is wonderful. But all their fights are fine. Like there's not any fights they had that were just like, this is terrible. The action scenes are fine. They're dumb, fun 80s, 90s action scenes. And they're great for that.
I did like the scene in the Hall of Violence when Phoenix is going and trying to get his weapons. And at one point he's asked the question I would ask too. Where are the laser guns? Like, where are the ray guns?
Yeah.
Because like, you're like, oh, well, how far in the future am I? They've got to have that by now. But it takes, like 3 minutes to charge up or something?
Yeah. But also, all the guns are already, they're all loaded. And the ammunition is all there.
Well, obviously, the guns in a museum have to be loaded.
Because it's like they're so docile. I think, who would steal loaded weapons?
Yeah.
That's true.
They're so dangerous. Why would you touch those?
Well, the fight scene in the museum ends up with them falling through the floor into a display of the burning 90s.
Yeah, of LA and where they were from.
Which is amazing because, number one, obviously there's they're going back into the past in this display. But at one point, they're in some display of a street in LA, and Phoenix shoots a fire hydrant, but it's a real fire hydrant because water explodes out of it.
Yeah.
And then Spartan gets thrown into this fake liquor store, but there's like real bottles on the shelves. So I'm like, wow, they put a lot of energy into like really rebuilding this when it's literally just a display through the floor.
No, they said it. This is it's an excavation site.
Yeah.
From the big fallout. This was a real street location. They just put glass over it.
Okay.
So
all right. That makes it a little more excusable then.
Like all archaeological digs, you can't touch it. You gotta let it sit there.
That's right.
It's preserved, it's pristine to this crazy, chaotic, barbaric times 30 years ago.
People used to drink liquor. Crazy.
Right. You can't drink that now.
But then we get the fight scene right at the end where they are now in the prison from which they came. And this is where Phoenix is going through trying to find. He's basically trying to release all the prisoners.
Yeah, he's going to release everybody.
Right? Just let everything go crazy. But of course, Spartan gets there first to stop him. And in the midst of them fighting, he gets grabbed in basically what is a giant version of those claws that you see at the arcade to pick the toys out. He basically gets trapped in one of these things. But then he like pulls a plug to freeze the machine to then turn it into ice so that he can punch through. But then while he's doing that, he also sprays the surroundings, but jumps away from it so as not to freeze himself first, which then freezes Phoenix, and then he kicks his head off.
Yes.
He kicks his frozen head off. When I watch scenes like this,
the blood, the frozen blood.
Yep, so good.
I'm always amazed when I watch these scenes in action movies because I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to write this. Like, how do you even come up with this? Because number one, it's very creative, but it's also so ridiculous that I feel like I would like talk myself out of it at some point. But they just go with it.
Well, it's like Chekhov's gun. Like they brought it up at the very, very beginning about how this freezing things works. Side note, by the way, Stallone in an interview said that the part where they're filling the chamber with water that he's in was the most terrifying thing he's ever done.
Yeah, I did see that.
Which I completely understand why, because you're trapped in this little thing. But it's like also like the anti-graffiti wall. We see that early on, and later on it's used as a weapon. So it's pretty good writing where like they're showing these terrible things that we've done, and at the end of the movie, we're using them.
Well, and the idea of using the environment as your ultimate like foil for the enemy, right? He wouldn't have been able to take them out, except that they're in this freezing chamber that he's setting off. So now he's going to use it to his advantage to take, to be able to beat Phoenix. It's like if you're going to look at other action movies, like in Commando, when it's like he rips the steam vents off the wall and he blows them in the guy's face. Blow off some steam, Ben. It's very similar to that kind of action writing. So I think it makes total sense if you're going to have. I mean, this is from '93 anyway, but the idea is it's from the future with these throwback action scenes. You have a throwback action ending.
And of course, we cannot talk about action tropes or 90s tropes in general without the film ending with, of course, a big, what we like to call 90s movie kiss.
Oh, yeah.
And a 90s movie kiss, for those of you who are unaware, is when you have a big kiss that pans out and leads to the end credits. And so obviously after Lieutenant Huxley is initially disgusted by the idea of physical touch and bodily fluids being exchanged, by the end, Dr. Cocteau is dead, and Phoenix is dead, and they have to now figure out what they're going to do. And we don't want to be completely clean, but we don't want to be completely dirty, and let's find our happy medium. And in the midst of this, she can no longer help herself. And of course, they share this big, wet kiss, and he says, "I think I'm going to like the future." Which is great. What would you say is the theme of this movie, or what is the big lesson that they are trying to get us to learn from Demolition Man?
Never look up where your daughter lives after you realize that she's still alive.
Now,
That's
you bring
true.
that up. You bring it up. That was a subplot they didn't follow up on. They actually chose not to do that. That was in the original. One of the original scripts was to focus more on him trying to find his daughter.
I completely forgot about her by the end of the movie.
Well, as did Stallone.
Everyone forgot about her. I was afraid that we were going to find out towards the end of the movie that Sandra Bullock's character is his actual daughter.
That's what I thought.
The age makes sense. And then I was like, but after that, even though it's not really a sex scene, it's still a sex scene. Like, that's not cool. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
That seems really gross.
That's very Back to the Future.
That's really what I thought that was.
But at least in Back to the Future, you knew it was his mom, right? So even though it happens, you're like, and it was supposed to be kind of skeevy. In this case, it just felt like, I hope that's not the arc they're going with that. It's not a good arc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want a real answer?
Oh, I was asking if anybody, I was wondering if anybody else had one.
Well, I just tie back to what I originally said about dystopian futures versus utopian futures. That even if no matter which extreme you're going to go with, it is terrible. That you really do need to find a happy medium. But I think the movie itself is really a sort of a satire of late 80s, early 90s action flicks. Because, they do a lot, they make fun of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the idea of the future being not as, yes, it's giving up your freedoms for safety, right? And this is the extreme. You give up all your freedoms, things that you would not even consider to be a crime, like eating meat or swearing, which is kind of a crime, but not really. Like things that you just would just not be able to do. Is it worth giving all that up to be safe, right? That's kind of the point. Is like, no, it's not. But at the same time, it is an action comedy movie, so that can't be as heavy-handed as making it that message could be.
All right, Andrene, any facts for this film?
Yeah, so we mentioned the Hall of Violence where he's in there and we have all these museum exhibits. They're actually, the photos on the wall are actual images from the 1992 LA riots, if you go back and look at that. So they put that in there for obvious reasons. It's based in California. We didn't mention this actually at all, but the seashell theory, when he goes to the restroom and he comes out and he says, oh, there's 3 seashells. Does anyone have an idea of what they think those seashells represent or how you use them?
I don't think there's an official way to use them.
So there are some theories out there. Like, of course
there are.
Yeah. So
Does it involve scooping?
Well, one of the theories is that you have, basically they'd be like 3 different buttons for like a bidet system. So shell number 1 would be like for spraying water. Shell number 2 would be for drying the area. And then shell number 3 would be like a scented spray that you would spray on the area. That's what people think the seashell theory is. And I was reading an article where they interviewed the screenwriter, Daniel Waters, and he said that he was trying to come up with some futuristic things you would find in a restroom. And he called another screenwriter who was across town. And allegedly, that screenwriter was in the bathroom when he answered the call. And he looked around and he was like, oh, I see a bag of seashells on this toilet as decoration. And he said, great, I'll make something out of that. And that's kind of how that came around. Now, Chris hinted at this earlier that initially it was written as Taco Bell as the only written like restaurant to survive this, great earthquake and all that. But it was changed to Pizza Hut for international versions because there was a low brand recognition in other countries for Taco Bell. They didn't know what Taco Bell was, whereas Pizza Hut is kind of universally well known. Both are owned by PepsiCo, so they went with Pizza Hut for international versions.
Well, I also read that they had initially pitched the idea to like McDonald's and Burger King or something. Like they had pitched it to a couple other restaurants, and they were like, "Yeah, nah, we don't want to be involved with this."
I've seen the ADR that was done on where they made him say Pizza Hut instead of Taco Bell. It is terrible, which makes it even better.
That's hilarious.
It's like, what do you mean we're going to Pizza Hut? I can't believe this is crazy. All they'll get there is a slice of pizza.
So 2 original choices for the roles were going to be Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme, which of course makes sense. Van Damme was offered the role of the bad guy, but he said he didn't want that role. He said he would star in the film if the roles could be switched. When they tried to get Seagal to play the bad guy, he declined. So basically, neither one wanted to play the bad guy, so they both were like, we're not doing this film.
They wouldn't have been able to do it better than Wesley anyway, so that's good for us.
Well, talking about Wesley...
Actually, real fast, when you said bad guy, my first thought went Dennis Leary's character. I don't know why. And I'm like, dirty Seagal, like a dirty Van Damme. And I was like, oh, wait, no, it's actually Phoenix. You're right. I don't know why I was like Dennis Leary.
Well, Dennis Leary looks like he should be a bad guy. He's just not one in this film.
Yeah, I can see Jean-Claude Van Damme playing that character. Friendly, for sure.
Or Steven Seagal, like, no. We're starving down here. Turkey.
But you have to have Dennis Leary as friendly so that he can do his act for 5 minutes, which is what he does in the scene when he talks about like what he wants out of life. It's just 5 minutes of his stand-up. Yeah, but that's okay. It was perfect for 1993.
It worked well. Now, there's a lot of Jackie Chan mentioned in this film. Apparently, he was offered the role of Simon Phoenix, but he turned it down because at the time he said he did not want to be typecast as an Asian in American films playing the villain. And so he was like, yeah, no villains for me. I got to be the good guy. And so he turned it down, which of course paved the way for Wesley Snipes to get the role. He is in fact a martial artist, and so he was able to show off his skill set, which we all loved to see in this movie. Yeah, which later on led to him becoming Blade in 98.
What Jackie Chan movies is he a villain in American films? I can't think of one.
He's not. He refused to do it.
I was saying he didn't want to do that.
He refused to do it. He said, I didn't want to basically play those kind of roles.
Gotcha.
So he said, nah, I got to be the good guy. So he didn't do it. Stallone, you mentioned, Chris, that he was saying that one stunt in that big tube was very dangerous because it was actually warm oil that they were using to fill up at the time. And it was supposed to cut at a certain level. And apparently the oil was starting to pour in a little bit more. Eventually it did stop, but he said that basically the lid was bolted on. As a backup, they had people with sledgehammers and hatchets that they can like break it down. But when they called to cut, they said they hit it 20 times and they couldn't crack it. So had there been an emergency, it's very likely he would have had warm oil, going down the back of his throat, which would have been terrible, as you can imagine.
I am now even more disturbed by a naked Stallone covered in baby oil.
For
your viewing pleasure.
About naked Stallone, apparently they used this fit body double for the body casting process. This guy was 20 years old and he was like, a bodybuilder. The 20-year-old, they said that they had to add more definition to his clay mold because the 20-year-old was not as fit as this almost 50-year-old Stallone, which is amazing to think how ripped this guy was.
John Rambo.
There you have it, man. All right. And now...
it's time for the Rewind Ratings.
All right. This is where we give our rewind ratings of the movie between a score of 1 and 5. Basically, a 1 is saying you never, ever, ever want to watch this film again. You would never, ever recommend it to anyone. It's complete trash. A 5 is if this movie is on, you're going to watch it each and every time. So we like to give it a score. We typically give scores like within like 0.25. So would anyone like to go first as to how they would rate Demolition Man?
Sure, I give it a solid 4. If this was on, this seems to be on heavy rotation for TBS, and if it was on, I would leave it on because if I'm surfing and I'm on TBS, it means I don't care what's on at this moment, and it's not a bad one to have on. It's sort of a guilty pleasure, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not the most amazing. I wouldn't go out and seek it. I wouldn't say to someone, "Hey, it's not streaming anywhere. Go buy the full cost DVD. Go watch it." No. But if you find it and you're surfing somewhere and you find it streaming someplace, yeah, take a gander if you haven't seen it before.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I worked at Taco Bell at the time, so we got so much swag, it was ridiculous.
Did you take anything home? Yeah.
He took home the cutout.
I don't have the cutout, but Jeremy, a mutual friend of ours, Jeff, if you remember, I won't go to the last name, I'll call him out.
I knew who it was, but
does have the cardboard cutout in his basement after these, now 30 years?
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's still down there and takes photos of it every now and again, which is a little creepy, but still, he has it.
It's a little weird. Dressed up in different bits of lingerie. That's not so good.
He's dancing it around like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. It's just so this is my first time watching this movie, but yeah, it was fun. It was enjoyable 90s action movie. It knew what it was trying to do, and it did those things. Like I said, I loved everything about Wesley Snipes in this film. He was just so much fun. And seeing the future, there is an ongoing back and forth with us and some of our Patreon members about The Fifth Element, which is a movie that we did not really particularly enjoy and a lot of our listeners love. And I will say, and I did say at the time that I thought the biggest value of that film was the look into the future. What could things look like with the flying cars and stuff like that? And I feel like this movie is a better version. And obviously it's not as far into the future, but it's still fun to see the CompuKiosk kiosk and the just the futuristic driving cars and all that stuff. So that is also a fun element. And yeah, the whole fish out of water story with John Spartan is enjoyable. The fight scenes are cool. So I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Yeah, I had 3.5 in my mind as well because I agree with this is a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's a funny movie. The jokes do land when they need to. It's not like you mentioned that they were looking to have different people as the main actors here, and one was Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal has attempted to make funny movies, and they're not funny, and they're terrible, and they're not. Part of it's because he doesn't get jokes. Apparently, there's a whole story where he was one of the guests for SNL, and he's kind of universally considered the worst SNL host of all time because he just doesn't get jokes. He rewrote the joke where he's like, "How about instead of this long joke you wrote, I just punched the guy?" And everyone's like, "That's not a joke, though." And so, these guys made a funny action movie. I like the future stuff where everyone doesn't quite get what the 90s were about, so they have this weird version of the 90s that they kind of are afraid of and or idolize, but also you get the fish out of water that's you from this time frame looking back at what they are now doing. This is crazy. It's fun, but I wouldn't give it more than 3.5 because I need to be in the right mood to watch this movie. If I am, great, it's fun. But if I'm not in the mood for something that's kind of jokey, then this is not gonna do it for me.
All right. Seems as if Jeremy and Joelle have both stolen my score. I also give it a 3.5. And I think when I'm watching this movie, we mentioned before how it's giving us this, Batman comic book type of feel. And for some reason, whenever we're recording with you all, we can't seem to get away from people being frozen. It's just something that we seem to see over and over again. So I couldn't help but thinking about when we watched, the Batman and Robin and Mr. Freeze of it all. And how that movie was absolutely ridiculous and terrible, whereas this one was way more enjoyable. Even the idea that while they're frozen, they're being rehabilitated, they're being programmed to do these things. At least they attempted to make things make sense, they in this world, okay, it kind of makes sense. And I appreciated that. I thought Wesley Snipes was absolutely hilarious and just so much fun to watch. And I gotta say, there was nothing in this film that didn't age well. We always look out for that when rewatching films, but yeah, there was nothing here that was a turnoff or made me cringe. It was good fun. So the 3.5 is the score for me as well.
Everyone's doing 3.5 but me. I'm the only 4. The only song going in my head is that one of these things isn't like the other. I feel like I'm about to be like taken off the screen.
He was off by 0.5. You didn't give it a 5. And you didn't give it a 1. Like, it's not that far.
Yeah. A 3.5 and a 4 are pretty close scores. So, Andrene, which do you prefer? Do you prefer Simon Says Die, or do you prefer the Dr. Freeze ice puns?
Simon Says Die was great. I mean, I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud when he said that. That really did it for me. I was a fan. Mr. Freeze, I mean, they had the puns. There were a lot. There weren't as many in this movie.
Well, I've got to say, we've seen a lot of villains together, the 4 of us. We've seen Mr. Freeze. We've seen the Riddler. We've seen Two-Face. We've seen Ivy. We've seen Phoenix. I've got to ask, which of those is your favorite villain?
Man, I don't know. This might be recency bias. I'm really liking Simon Phoenix, man. He's a lunatic, but he's having so much fun. He's having so much fun being a lunatic that, I think he was my favorite. I enjoyed Jim Carrey's Riddler as well, so that's probably my second. But yeah, I think I enjoyed Phoenix a little bit more.
The Riddler was definitely mine, just because Jim Carrey is a complete nut job. And I just keep picturing him sticking that stupid thing on his forehead. And like, how can you not laugh?
I'm laughing right now. I haven't seen the movie in weeks. It's still
so that's
funny.
what I think about, and it makes me laugh every time. What about you guys?
You bring up Two-Face. When I was watching this, the joy that Wesley Snipes had at being the bad guy reminded me of watching Two-Face, where he's like dancing around and constantly like, laughing while he's being the bad guy. It was very similar. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to top Jim Carrey's Riddler. It is a fun portrayal of Riddler that I enjoyed a lot more when we watched it recently than I remembered watching it. But I do like Phoenix as well here. But I think Riddler's going to just edge it out because of the wonderful costume changes he has throughout the movie.
It's a tough race between the Riddler and Phoenix. Because Jim Carrey does such an amazing job. But Phoenix has got some great lines. And he's not a comic book villain, which makes him different than all the other ones. And which makes him sound even crazier. Like a comic book villain, like you expect him to be dead nuts. Phoenix,
also, I think it's the fact that Phoenix didn't really have a choice. Like, he was programmed to be as crazy as he was.
Well, he had a choice before he was arrested.
I was going to say, he was crazy before he was programmed
now he's
to be
even
crazy.
crazier.
Yeah.
But also, he doesn't have every Batman villain has he wouldn't be bad except this happened, right? Like, they all have that. So there's some kind of, like, humanizing the bad guy. There's nothing for Phoenix. It's like, no, he's just a bad guy. He's a bad guy. They don't try to explain it other than any other way. There's no scene where he's like, I wouldn't have done this, but they stole my mom's car. Like, there's none of that. He's just like, nope, I just wanted to be as chaotic as possible. Even though they ask him what he wants. He wants Malibu. He just wants his own city that he owns and no one can go into. That's all he wants.
Malibu.
He picked a good one. Yeah. Makes sense. We also watched Airheads together. I don't know if there's a villain in that movie. Maybe the music industry is
the man.
Villain.
The villain, yeah, I was going to say the villain of that is the man.
All right. Well, let us know what your rewind rating is for Demolition Man. We can be reached on all social media sites at RR90spod. You can also send us an email at rewindrewatch1990s@gmail.com. And you can also join our Patreon, which is only $5 a month. So in 2026, that's like less than a cup of coffee. And with the Patreon, you will also have access to additional bonus episodes where we cover films from the late 80s and the early 2000s. Before we wrap up, Movie Smash guys, where can folks find you and what are you guys up to recently?
No, like we were saying, if you're looking for us or a Movie Smash, you can go to movie-smash.com to find our website. Find us streaming on any platform, Spotify, Apple, all the fun ones, whatever your favorite one is. But yeah, right now we're just going through our summer guests. We're going through a bunch of different movies. And I think, Jeremy, the next one we're recording is what, Sin City?
Yes, Sin City will be the next recorded. I don't know when these things post, so maybe it's already up for you. But that's what we're recording next.
Sounds good. All right, so to close out the episode, we like to give final words. Typically, the final words consist of like a quote from the film. So whatever you guys can think of, Jeremy or Chris, or both of you, do you have any final words for Demolition Man?
I was going to end my final words talking about the 3 seashells, but that was already stolen from me. I still don't understand it, and I thought about it for a while.
You gotta go with Simon. Simon says bleed.
Strong. I'm going to say, Phoenix says, I've been dreaming about killing you for 40 years. And Spartan says, we'll keep dreaming.
So my final words is when is when John Spartan goes to Huxley's apartment and she gives him the headset and he's like, what is this? This is not sex. What about, boning, the wild mambo, the big hunka chunka?
What do you say we just do it the old-fashioned way?
Ew, disgusting. You mean fluid transfer?
I mean, boning, the wild mambo, the hunka chunka.
Which I don't know if I've ever heard the phrase the hunka chunka before, but I knew what he was talking about.
I tried to use it, did not work.
I don't respond well to that, Jeremy.
All right, on that note, we will catch you guys next week.
All right, later.
Adios.
See ya.
Yeah.